Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you will receive alerts when there are new episodes. Go get it.
That's what I tell them. I've been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. How to code, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with another topic on the Success Chronicles. Always a good time when I get to connect with my guy, Mr. Robert Harper II, Robert Harper II. Again, great sentiments about him, great guy, doing some great things in our world. Lots of things he's involved in to make a positive difference. And always grateful to get the opportunity to hang out with him and talk life and success. So first off, again, thanks for making the time.
Oh, definitely, Doc. Man, I appreciate you.
Yes,
Always
sir.
a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Well, today we're going to talk about what it takes to be whole. I think when I hear the word whole, I think of completeness. I think of substance. I go the food analogy here with you. There's a difference between I don't know. I can go deep with it, but so there's layers, right? There's layers, right? There's layers and levels, and for example, I'm thinking about my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain thing that my grandmother made was hot water cornbread.
Come on,
Loved her hot water cornbread, and nobody else ever has made it like she's made it. But when you think about it, when it took her years to be great at that, right? And so I would imagine, that as a young person, when she was first starting to make it, it wasn't quite what it could be, right? It didn't have substance. She was putting in the work, but it wasn't quite whole, if you will.
Right.
But as she went throughout her life with time and experimented and practiced on different things, by the time I came in her life and I was, enjoying the moments of being around Mimi, and her food and her cooking, she had perfected that hot water cornbread, and so it was nothing, probably in the early stages, she had to look at the ingredients step by step and, all of that stuff. But like now it's just like, bam, she just goes like, it's nothing for her to just whip it out, a little
measuring cup, measuring cup, nothing.
Nothing, and it was greatness. And so, I say that because I think it's a process for us to become whole, if you will, and have that substance. And we have to make sure that we embrace that process and know that, within that comes growth. Like we don't just do something and be amazing at it.
That's so good, man. That's good.
Thank you. Well, what you got on wholeness? On what do you think it takes to be whole?
Well, no, I kind of follow up on what you're saying, man, because that was a thought that I was thinking on the beginning of this year. This before the year started, I did a lot of contemplating and thinking and how I wanted to enter the new year, but also the new decade. Before the end of the year, at the end of the year, you want to think about, how is my new year gonna, translate? But I did a lot of reflecting because I said to myself, like, wow, like I went from 2010 to 2019 and just reflecting on all God's blessings and how He kept me and all the words and ups and downs and all that kind of stuff. So, but one of the thoughts that came to my mind when I was going to 2020 was, I am complete, but not completed. That's one of the things that kept resonating with me in my mind.
Let's go.
And it's similar to what you're talking about, Chip. I am complete but not completed simply means that we're on a journey. Life comes to us in seasons, and I use an analogy you know, for myself, for example, when I was a boy, I didn't have a beard, right? I was 10 years old, didn't have a beard. And it probably would have been quite foolish to have a beard at 10 years old, right? But I didn't have a beard. But here's the thing where I think a lot of people lack when you talk about being whole. They think because they're not in a particular season that diminishes their value, or their worth, you know? So because I don't have it yet, because I don't have that relationship, because I don't have that job, because I don't have whatever it is, you know, that you think that diminishes your value or your worth. And so what I said to myself, say, no, like I have a beard now, you know, right? So what that means is that I had, you know, at 10 years old from birth, you know, I had all the genetic structure and the DNA to be able at one point in my life grow a beard, right? It didn't mean that I was less valuable at 10. It just meant that I was already equipped with everything that I needed. I'm equipped with everything that I need. It's just that at some point I'll manifest it. So I think that for me, when you think about a person trying to be whole, a person trying to be complete, is that, man, like give yourself some grace. Know that it's a process, you know, like don't be so hard on yourself and realize that it's a journey and you may not be in that season right now, right? You may not be at that time in your place right now, but it doesn't mean that you're not capable of producing the thing you want in your life. It's just not in your season right now. Doesn't take away from your value, doesn't take away from your worth, you know? So similar to what you're saying, man, I think it's big for people to understand that it's a process. You know, everything doesn't come in the same season. So
I love that, how you put that together. You know, when you talked about the seasons and the magic G word, grace, you know, we have to give ourselves grace and we have to give others grace. We have to be able to forgive. You know, forgiving is for giving, you know, and so it's important to make sure that we give grace to ourselves and others and know that, you know, different seasons call for different things. And so,
true.
You know, in the winter, we have to have different clothes than what we have in the summer, you know, and, you know, in our life for us to be whole, there's different times, different seasons, and different things that we have to have and do at those times. And so what we have to do, like me, I'm a simple guy. I like operating systems. You know, I like to have, you know, means by which I do things so that I know that it will be of substance, if you will.
Right.
And so, you know, I know, for instance, like, for example, I'm an educator, coach for a long time. I know that during football season, you know, I'm working from can to can't. So there's not a lot of other things that I can be involved in, you know. Now, once the season is over, you know, then now I can, you know, kind of have a little more time. I can focus more on some other things. And I think, you know, just like that analogy in our lives, we have to embrace that, you know, when there are certain things going on in our life, which, so that we can be in the moment and maximize that moment, you know. And so I think it's important to make sure that we do that. But I think go ahead. I'm sorry.
Too futuristic, man. Too futuristic. We're in the future too much, man, or we're in the past too often. You know what I mean? So it's like being present is so valuable, man. And being fact, because then when you're present, you understand everything you must do, right? You understand the responsibilities. You understand your blessings. Yeah. So I'm not upset because I don't have what you have. I'm just understanding that I've got to be present. I got to continue to be obedient, be developing myself, keep striving after greatness. I got to keep giving my best effort every single day. And when I do that, at one point in my journey, I'm going to achieve whatever it is that I'm supposed to achieve or get to the place where I want to get to. But if I'm too futuristic in my mind, my thinking, I'm thinking, you know, too forward all the time, I'm always in the future, then I can't appreciate the present and what I need to do, the responsibility that I need to do right now. And so I think that's key, man. Like, we cannot spend a lot of time dwelling in the past. We can't spend a whole lot of time dwelling in the future. You know, we got to be present. You know, I think when we do that, man, our relationships can change, how we approach things change, you know, just everything about us. And so I think that's key, man, being whole. People are just worrying too much, man.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. I think I think the secret sauce, here I go with the food analogies again.
Hey, come on, man.
I think, there's people have their specialty thing, right? That secret sauce, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in our life, the secret sauce is, we have to be able to learn from the past.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to plan for the future. But that secret sauce is really just the ability to be able to be in the present. Be aware of what's going on. Be grateful for the situations that you're in.
Yeah.
Be humble and hungry.
Yeah.
Grateful for what you have, but then also striving, to just take one day at a time to be the best version of yourself. And to me, I think that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, for sure. I think being present, I think sometimes we don't want to be present simply because of what it demands, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, of what it demands. I mean, to be in the past, what does that demand of you? You're just worrying. To be in the future, what does that demand of you? You're just worrying, right? But to be present means that you're accountable, means you have to be responsible, means you have to be aware, right? It means there's certain things you must do right now, right now. So sometimes we run away from that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to attack that. I'm thinking about a passage in John 5, right, where Jesus walks up to this guy who's been paralyzed for 38 years. And he asks him this simple question. It almost seems like a rhetorical question or a silly question, man. He asked this man who's been paralyzed for 38 years, do you want to be made whole? Okay, do you want to be made well? And the guy immediately starts relying on his excuses. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. He just starts talking about his excuses, right? And how that nobody helps me. Nobody does this for me, right? And Jesus just told him, man, get up. Get up. He healed the man. But I thought about that. I said, man, why would Jesus ask him that question? Do you want to be made whole? When clearly this man has been in this condition for 38 years, right? So for me, I thought about like everything that's attached to being whole, right? Like what's attached to being whole means that you have to be accountable, you have to be responsible, you can't rely on self-pity anymore, right? You cannot just say, hey, woe is me. You can't play the victim anymore. You have to get up and do some things now, right? And I think for a lot of people, that's scary, right? I think even in our culture, right? We always hear Black folks, we don't want to go to therapy, right? Or we don't want to talk to anybody. We don't want to do our own help, because I think the thought of recovery, the thought of the tears, the thought of the responsibility is painful. It's painful, man. It's like I'd rather just y'all just feel bad for me because I had a bad childhood. I'd rather y'all just pat me on the back and say it's gonna be okay because your dad wasn't there or that your mom did this to you. That feels better than owning it and saying, okay, it's not my fault, but it's my responsibility and I have to do something about it. Right? So it can be painful. The recovery process and going through all of that can be really, really painful. So I think we just gotta realize that if we want to be whole, we got to do some self-reflecting. We got to ask ourselves, like, am I ready for everything that being whole means, right? So it's a journey, man. It really is a journey by trying to be whole. It's a process, like you said before. It's a process.
Yeah, I think when I hear you say that and the process and the journey, I think about the actions. Right. Because you have to take actions. And I think that there is, three main phases that I think that we have to be aware of in our day-to-day journey in taking our actions. And I think if we get better in these three main phases every day, it allows us to be whole. And the first is spiritual.
Come on.
The second is mental. And the third is physical. And, and this is something that personally that I have tried to do, especially like in my college days. It was really big for me because I felt that mom and them, mom and them wasn't there to make sure that I was doing these things, right?
Facts.
So in that process, like we talked about, I was in the process of growing as my own personal person to be whole, right? And so my goal was, okay, if I can, get better every day in the spiritual realm, saying my prayers, doing the things, living making good choices, living the best life that I can as far as trying to be the best person I could be. And then, granted, not perfect, made some mistakes, learned from them and moved on. But, it's in the effort. And then
for sure,
the mental, striving to learn something and making myself better mentally every day, in the things that I want to be in the future. And then the last is physical. And of course, you want to make sure that you take care of your health and strive to do that and be the best version. So for me, I think in order to be whole, these are things that I have really focused on for a while now in my life. Those 3 points: the spiritual, the mental, and the physical.
Yeah, that's really good, man.
Yeah,
that's really good. I mean, I think you're whole. Like, you understand that you're not just this one, isolated part of you. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not just addressing the spiritual. I'm not just addressing the physical. No, I have to deal with the whole totality of myself and my being. And I think, man, that's just so key. We have to recognize that God wants that for us. He wants us to be developed in those areas, from a spiritual standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, society, because there's so much trauma, man. There's so much trauma that we've experienced and that we've allowed ourselves to experience, and so we've got to acknowledge that, right? And I think we talking about being whole. You can't say that I want to be whole if you can never admit that I was broken. That I'm broken, right? You got folks going around thinking they're whole, thinking they're okay, when they're not even aware of their own brokenness. And it's not sometimes like our own personal defects. It's not even our own proclivities to wrong or things that we may do. It's things that's been placed upon us, right? Like, so how I look at it is like, we have brokenness that's from a society standpoint, right? Brokenness that you and I were birthed into from a society standpoint. Unfairness, injustice. You got stuff, prejudice, sexism, racism. All kind of stuff from a society standpoint that's just broken, that we walked into it. So to think that we don't have our own prejudices, think that we don't have our own, ways about ourselves, and we've been living in the society for this whole time, that's being in denial, right? So we got to acknowledge that. Like, what are the things in my life that I need to shift my perspective on and challenge my perspective on, simply because I've been in this broken society, right? Or from a generational standpoint. So you got society, you got a generation, like mama and them, like you said before, like mama and them, daddy and them, you know what I mean? Like my auntie. It's just the way they did things. And because they did things this way, therefore I have to do things this way. No, you don't. You know what I mean? It's like, you can change it up. You can do something different. And you have to be aware of that. You know what I mean? And also understand that mama and them probably did it under different circumstances, right? They probably acted those way under different a different environment. And so for you to be able to keep that up, it's counterproductive for you to do that. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't have the attitude. You shouldn't carry that on. One of the things I always say, one of my mentors, he told me this a long time ago. He says that more is caught than taught. Yeah. More is caught than taught, man. And I'll never forget that, because what it told me was that us as humans, how we learn, like we believe and we perpetuate behavior that we see rather than what we've been taught. Like, somebody can tell us something all day long, but what am I seeing you do? Like, what's your actions? That's what I'm going to implement. That's what I'm going to repeat. So when you see somebody do something, especially in your own family, over and over and over again, you can think dysfunction is function. right? And she's like, no,
mm.
like that's not, it's not functional, to do that. And you think that you're like, this is me being whole. Like, no, you're broken. You're broken, and you need to address why you keep responding that way, why you keep acting that way, why you keep doing what you're doing. And I think the last and final thing in my mind is that just from a personal standpoint, we got some brokenness that we have to deal with, and the word that I like to use, we talked about this earlier, the big G word, grace,
Yeah.
right? Giving yourself some grace, knowing that, yes, I'm not perfect. I have some flaws in my life, and to acknowledge that, to own that, to walk in that, say, hey, yeah, I don't always do the right thing, but I'm trying. I'm making an effort. I'm striving each and every day to be the best version of myself. And I don't think if you're not aware of that fundamentally, then you can't keep striving. You can't make the adjustments. You can't try to be better because you don't have any place from which you're trying to grow from. Like if I know that I have a bad habit of being late, right? And nobody ever tells me you're late and being late is a problem, then I'm just going to keep continuing that negative behavior, right? But if I'm aware of it, at least I'm okay, I'm late. I'm a late person. I usually show up 15, 20 minutes late, So from there, I have a foundation. Exactly. I can plan, I can adjust, I can make improvements. So maybe I'm used to being 20 minutes late, but now I can check that. I can check that progress. Okay, now this week I'm only 10 minutes late, right? And so the week after that, or in a couple months from now, I'm only 5 minutes late, right? I'm getting better, right? And so I think we have to be able to acknowledge and be aware of our own wrongdoings, our own injustice, our own things that we do that are wrong. So, and I think a lot of times we don't like to do that, man. We don't like to look in the mirror and say, I got some stuff wrong with me. And yeah, it's powerful, man. One of the things in my life, when you're not whole and you're not right with yourself, and you got some insecurities you need to deal with, you got some brokenness, you got some trauma, you got some hurt, some pain. Well, like they say, hurt people, right? And that's what I've come to understand, is that in my own life, it's not so much what a person does to me, it's what I'm doing, my behavior. And then sometimes they begin to emulate my behavior, right? They begin to say, respond the way I respond. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we have to work on us, be responsible for our behavior, and then we'll start seeing a better outcome, especially in our relationships, man. So I think, yeah.
I love it, man. I love the way you put that about the awareness, and really that's what it all boils down to. Have I shared the concept of kinsekure with you? Okay, so there's a like a Japanese tradition in and with pottery. And what they do is, sometimes if they have pottery that has a crack or that's broken, what they do is they take the pottery and they lace it with gold or silver. And so what happens when it's finished, the pot or whatever it is better after that process than it was before it was broken. And so I think, to me, in our lives, that's how it is with having the awareness. We have to be aware of those things, all of those things that we discussed, and know that, we all are broken to some sort. But the beauty of it is, within that process of us being laced with the gold and silver by the big man, by those great people that pour into our lives, we become better and we're more valuable because we have been broken. And then now, it allows us to be whole. It allows us to not only be the best versions of ourselves, but it allows us to help so many others because of our brokenness. And we just have to be aware of it.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think within that comes a spirit of humility.
Yes.
A spirit of humility that you're talking about, an awareness that, hey, I'm broken. I've been broken. I've been broken. And I think when we go through those difficult times, when we are broken and we know that we're broken, we know we have some trauma, some hurt, some pain, some insecurities, some deficiencies within ourselves, we begin to rely on the one who can really supply. We start relying on God more. We start developing our spiritual component of ourselves, because we know that a lot of times what we do, man, I've experienced in my own life. I don't know about yourself, Chip, but those times where I can be aware that I'm broken, but I'll begin to rely on other things to fulfill me. You know what I mean? To make up for that brokenness that I'm. And sometimes that may be in me hurting other people. Sometimes that may be making an idol out of my job. Sometimes that may be just whatever it can be. I'm substituting, right? It's like, okay, I feel this pain here, and so then I go into this behavior that I know is counterproductive and can't really fulfill me. And so in my own personal walk, man, I realized that only God can do that. God can do that healing from the inside, that restoring from the inside. And so we can only do that when we're humble, when we really acknowledge that, say, okay, hey, I am broken. Things are not okay. And just because, and here's the thing too, I think this is one of the things we don't want to acknowledge, for me especially, that mom and them probably got it wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, I'm not trying to judge them from mom and them or dad. I see them as an adult. I see them as a holistic person.
Yeah.
I don't see them as, oh, that's just my mom, or that's just my dad. No, I see them as an individual who's had a childhood, who's had adolescent, who's been an adolescent, who's been a young adult, and they've had phases of their own problems and struggles and everything else that they've tried to work through. And so now, as an adult, they're doing the best job they possibly can, right? So you offer them grace, you offer them mercy, and you understand that while there were some things they didn't do the best, right? I can improve on that. Let me take the good that they did do, they did give me and leave in me, and let me try to improve on the rest. But if I play this blame game, you know what I mean? If I play this blame game, this woe is me, it was their fault, pointing the finger, then I'll never progress. I'll never be whole. I'll always be looking for it in things that can never fulfill me. And so I think that's key, is to, just because you say to a person that wasn't right, it's not indicative that everything that they did was wrong, or that they didn't bring any level of value to your life. And so I think just acknowledging that, like, they're a whole person, and just like you mess up and you've messed up and you're trying to figure it out, they're doing the same thing, man. They were doing the same thing. And so I think that's key. That's key, man, for a level of humility, a level of honesty, being honest, and owning it and walking in the direction in which God can be pleased with, that you can be pleased with, so that you can look at yourself in the mirror and be okay with you. You know what I mean?
That's
and
awesome, man.
A lot of times we don't want to do that, man. We don't want to look in that mirror.
Yeah, got to be like Michael Jackson. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. Come
on.
Well, there it is, man. Again, I want to say thanks so much for taking the time. Hope we've given you audience some great tips to help you be whole in your life based on our experiences and things that we've been blessed to achieve. Again, appreciate your time, Doc.
Definitely. I appreciate you, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll see you guys next time. God bless.
Go get it.